What's up, guys, and welcome back to another man versus deer video. In today's video, I'm talking about the Canon Vixia HF G50, and I'm going to tell you why I picked this camera out of all the options out there to film my hunts. Let's get after it.
This is probably one of my bigger bucks to date.
Guys, I cannot believe that actually worked.
Looks like a double long shot.
It was hot, really hot. Welcome back to the channel, guys. If you're new to the channel, make sure that you smack that subscribe button. Definitely like the video. And for sure, leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. So, like I said earlier, we're talking about the Canon Vixia HF G50, or the Canon G50 that I call it for short. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the features on this thing and why I chose it over all the other cameras out there. Alright guys, so before I jump into the meat and potatoes of this video, I want to give you a brief overview about this camera. That way you have a starting point. This camera runs about $999, which I think is a good value. It's considered a prosumer camera, which is about halfway in between a consumer camera and a professional. In a lot of ways, it's a regular handy cam, and it looks like it. It's got the zoom buttons on top, it's got a grip on the side, it's got a viewfinder that you can open and adjust, and it's got an open and close for the lens up top. And it records in 4K, it's got a 20 times optical zoom. So in a lot of ways, it's like a standard, run-of-the-mill camcorder, but in a lot of ways it's not. And that's what we're gonna cover, and that's a lot of the reason I purchased this one over a lot of other options I had. So there are two main reasons I picked this camera over any other camera. I'm going to cover one now, and I'm going to cover one at the end of the video. That first big reason is the manual focus, which is right here. And what a manual focus allows you to do is, if I'm trying to film a deer and it's on the other side of some brush, a lot of times the camera is going to auto default to focusing on that brush, which is going to make the deer blurry. Makes it super hard to film animals in the woods or in a field or anywhere that animals live, right? So that manual focus allows you to take the focus off of what the camera wants, and it allows you to focus in on what you want. And it can really make a lot of difference in your videos and add a lot of quality and allow you to get a lot of footage that you otherwise wouldn't be able to get. So that's a huge deal to me and a non-negotiable in a hunting camera. The second reason I picked this camera over a lot of the other ones is that it has an output for an external mic, which is what this guy is on top of it. This is just a Taxstar mic. It's only like 30 bucks. But it is sensitive enough, it will pick up a faint turkey gobble and make it sound good. It will pick up a whisper from 20 yards away. If you're doing an interview in the tree early in the morning and you're whispering, it's going to sound loud and good and usable in a video. So that is another non-negotiable in a hunting camera for me, is it's got to have a spot where I can plug in an external mic. The next thing that I really liked about this camera is that it has a lens cover. And what a lens cover does is, if you're filming in direct sunlight or towards the sun, or there's not a lot of cloud cover and the light is harsh, it puts a little shade on the lens, and it really gives your video a little bit more depth than it otherwise would have. Because a lot of times when you're recording in direct sunlight, that light is going to make your video super bright, it's going to look exposed, it's going to be harsh, and that is really hard to fix when you're editing. So this softens that up a good chunk, especially if the sun is shining right at you. It's going to shade that video and give it a lot more depth and color than it otherwise would without that. So that was a big deal to me as well. The next thing I'll cover, and this is pretty standard, a lot of cameras have this, not just this one, but it does shoot in 4K video. The awesome thing about 4K video is that when you shoot in 4K, if you have to crop that video or zoom in, you're still getting HD footage. It allows you to take video and then condense it down and still get super high quality footage, even if you have to crop or trim that video. So that was a pretty big deal to me. The next thing we're going to talk about with this camera specifically is shooting modes, and that's something that this camera had that a lot of other cameras didn't. And what I mean by shooting modes, for instance, is that this thing has a portrait mode on it. Portrait mode is something that you're going to want to use when you're filming animals, but when you're filming an interview, like in the morning in your tree, or you're making a video like I am right here, portrait mode is going to be something that sharpens the image and focus and blurs the background for a little bit of added depth in the video. And it's got several other modes, including a low light mode or a night mode. It's got a sports mode for fast moving action. It's got a bunch of different modes that you can kind of tailor to the environment that you're in, and that I found was super valuable as well. Another thing I really liked about this camera is that it's got a very extensive image stabilization system in it. So if you want to take some video while you're walking in, while you're running up to an animal that you just harvested, it's going to take a lot of the bounce and the shake out of it. And as far as image stabilization goes, this has some pretty awesome technology in it for that. So the next thing I'll talk about is the zoom on this camera. It has a 20 times optical zoom, which is really good and pretty standard in most cameras. That isn't something unique to this camera. 20 is about as low as I'll go for a hunting camera, but when you pair the 20 times optical zoom with the 100 times digital zoom it has, and then the option to shoot in 4K video and be able to trim that footage, you can really make that zoom go a long way. So that's another really good selling point for this camera. The last thing I'm going to cover on this camera, and this was my second huge reason that I purchased this camera over a lot of the other cameras, was the viewfinder. So at first glance, the viewfinder on this thing looks pretty standard, right? All of them can do this. Well, where this one goes a little bit above and beyond is it will flip all the way forward, which is awesome for interviews and stuff like that. Again, most cameras will do that, this one included, but where this one goes a little bit above and beyond is that this, while it's flipped forward, will flip backwards, and I'm going to show you why that's extremely valuable. So let's say you're in a tree filming, and most of the time, if you're like me, your camera's going to be on your right side. If you get an animal that's walking to the left and you're trying to film it, that viewfinder starts to go out of view really fast. Even if you flip it up, it's really hard to see. It's really hard to keep that animal in focus. The farther they get to the left, the harder it is to see them in this viewfinder, especially during turkey season. So what makes this camera so awesome is that you can flip the viewfinder forward and you can turn it this way. And now that animal can go as far left as it wants to, and I've got a really good, clear sight picture in it, and I'm going to be able to get really good video even if that animal crosses in front of me in a not advantageous position for filming. And then, of course, any animals that want to go the other way, you've got the viewfinder right there, and you can see it. So that's the other huge reason I purchased this camera, comparatively speaking to the other cameras that were available. Well, guys, that's pretty much it. That's the stuff that I look for in a camera that I'm gonna film hunts with, and I hope this video was extremely helpful to you. If it was, make sure you smack that subscribe button, definitely like the video, and for sure leave a comment. I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I also got a link in the description that will take you to a shop, and any purchases made from that shop directly support the channel. There's European mount plaques, turkey plaques, custom plaques, and what I mean by that is if you kill a buck in Kansas and you want a Euro mount plaque in the shape of Kansas, I can do that stuff for you. Any purchases made through that link directly support me and the channel, and it's how I fund a lot of my YouTube stuff. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. I will catch you in the next one.